The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with quiet conversation. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy sat in the massive circular hall, their forms ranging from crystalline beings to gaseous entities contained in special suits. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Gray, his tall, slender form casting a long shadow under the artificial light. The council leader, a being of pure energy contained within a hovering metallic sphere, moved forward. Ambassador Gray, you have called this emergency session. The floor is yours. Gray's silver eyes swept across the chamber. His species, known as the Watchers, rarely involved themselves in galactic politics. Their presence alone had caused a stir among the council members. Distinguished members of the council, Gray's voice echoed through the chamber. I come before you today with a warning. Our observers have detected increased military activity near the Sol system, home to a species known as humans. Murmurs filled the chamber. Most species knew of Earth but considered it a backwater planet, barely worth noting in galactic affairs. The Meridian Alliance ships have been spotted scanning the system, Gray continued. We believe they plan to recruit humans for their war against the Stellar Dominion. This must not happen. A large insectoid being clicked its mandibles in amusement. These humans barely have space travel. They haven't even colonized their own solar system properly. What threat could they pose? Gray activated a holographic display. Images of Earth's various conflicts throughout history appeared in the air. Humans are unique. In their brief history, they have fought more wars among themselves than most species fight in 1,000 years. They have gone from simple spears to nuclear weapons in less than 10,000 years. The display showed scenes from various human wars. Ancient battles with swords, World War II tanks rolling across fields, modern warfare with drones and cyber attacks. But surely this makes them perfect soldiers. A reptilian delegate called out, "The Meridians need troops. Why not let them use these natural warriors?" Gray's expression darkened. Because humans don't just fight wars, they revolutionize them. Every conflict they engage in leads to massive technological leaps. They adapt, innovate, and transform warfare in ways that terrify even us. He changed the display to show human medical advances. They have taken the worst injuries of war and turned them into opportunities for medical breakthroughs. Their combat medicine is unmatched because they've had so much practice healing their wounded. The chamber grew quieter as Gray continued. Their military innovations spread to civilian life. What begins as a weapon becomes a tool for exploration or daily life. They turn destruction into creation with frightening speed. The council leader's sphere pulsed with interest. You speak of them as if they are a virus. No, Gray replied. Viruses are predictable. Humans are not. Give them a new technology, and they will find 100 ways to use it that its creators never imagined. Show them a new weapon, and they will improve it in ways that defy logic. He shut off the holographic display. If you allow humans into this war, it will not remain the same conflict. They will change it, escalate it, transform it into something none of us can control. Their creativity in combat is matched only by their ability to survive against overwhelming odds. Laughter erupted from several delegates. One gaseous being floated forward. These are primitive beings who still fight over resources on their own planet. How could they possibly affect a galactic war? Gray waited for the laughter to die down. When humans first flew in primitive aircraft, it took them less than 15 years to turn them into weapons of war. Within 70 years, they reached their moon. No other species has ever developed technology so rapidly. He looked each council member in the eye. If you ignore this warning, you will learn why my species has watched them for so long. We have seen civilizations fall by underestimating seemingly primitive species. But humans? He paused. Humans are different. They don't just adapt to war. They thrive in it. And if you drag them into this conflict, the galaxy will never be the same. With those words, Gray turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a council divided between dismissive amusement and unsettled fear. None of them realized they had just witnessed the most important warning they would ever receive. 3 months after Ambassador Gray's warning, a Meridian scout ship hovered in Earth's orbit, cloaked from human detection systems. Inside, Commander Reed of the Meridian Alliance studied the data streaming across his screens with growing interest. "Look at this," he said to his science officer. "Their military response times are incredible. Our probe triggered their radar systems, and they scrambled fighters within minutes." The science officer, a blue-skinned being named Lin, nodded. "But their technology is primitive, Commander. They haven't even developed basic gravity control." "That's exactly what makes them perfect." Reed's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of excitement in his species. "They're advanced enough to understand our technology, but not so advanced that they'll question our authority." On the main screen, they watched as Earth's military forces conducted exercises. American and European forces were running joint drills in the Atlantic, while Asian powers flexed their muscles in the Pacific. The humans had no idea they were being observed. "The Stellar Dominion pushed us back in 3 more systems this week," Reed said quietly. "We're losing this war. But these humans," he gestured at the screen, "they've fought more wars in the last century than we've fought in 1,000 years." Lin moved closer to the display. "The Council banned interference with developing worlds. If we recruit them—" "We're not interfering with their development," Reed interrupted. "We're just hiring mercenaries. Private contractors. There's no law against that." The commander pulled up footage from various human conflicts. "Look at how they adapt. In one of their wars, they went from basic flight to jet engines in just 6 years. Their rate of innovation under pressure is unmatched." A junior officer entered the bridge, carrying a datapad. "Sir, we've identified potential recruitment targets. Former Special Forces operators, combat veterans, mercenaries. They're all experienced, and more importantly, they're dissatisfied with their current situations." Reed studied the profiles. These humans had fought in places called Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Endless conflicts that had shaped them into hardened warriors. "Perfect. Begin Phase 1. That night, in a bar in downtown Seattle, John Miller nursed his 3rd beer. The former Marine had struggled to find his place in civilian life. The private security work was decent money, but it lacked purpose. The strange man who sat next to him seemed out of place in his perfectly pressed suit. "Mr. Miller," the man said, "I represent an organization that values your particular skill set." Miller had heard such pitches before. Another private military contractor looking for cannon fodder. But something about this man was different. "We offer technology and opportunities beyond your imagination." The man continued, sliding a small device across the bar. When Miller touched it, a hologram appeared above his palm. His beer forgotten, Miller stared at the impossible image of a spaceship. "What is this?" "Your next deployment, if you're interested." The man smiled. "We need warriors, Mr. Miller. We need humans." Similar scenes play out across the globe. A former SAS operator in London, a retired SEAL in Virginia, a French Foreign Legion veteran in Marseilles. Each was approached, each was shown the truth, and each was offered a choice. In his ship, Commander Reed watched the recruitment numbers grow. 20 operators, then 50. Soon, 100 of Earth's finest warriors had agreed to join the Meridian cause. "Sir," Lin reported, "the first group is ready for transport. But I must remind you of the Watcher's warning." Reed waved his hand dismissively. "The Watchers are paranoid. These humans are tools, nothing more. We'll give them just enough technology to be useful, but not enough to be a threat." As the first group of human mercenaries was secretly shuttled to a Meridian training facility, none of the aliens realized their fatal error. They saw humans as simple warriors to be pointed at an enemy. They didn't understand that humans were more than soldiers. They were innovators who turned every battlefield into a laboratory of deadly progress. The galaxy was about to learn why Ambassador Gray's warning should have been heeded. The Meridian training facility on Base Station Alpha buzzed with unusual activity. Captain Tom Reed stood before a group of alien officers, pointing at a holographic display of their recent battle simulation. His fellow human mercenaries sat nearby, trying to hide their grins. "With all due respect, sir," Tom said to the Meridian commander, "your attack patterns are too predictable. You're fighting in straight lines in 3-dimensional space. Commander Reed's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. It's the most efficient formation for our ships. Maybe for your ships, Tom replied. But efficiency isn't everything in combat. He manipulated the hologram, showing how their small group of human-piloted ships had demolished the Meridian Training Squadron. We used the asteroids for cover, split our forces, and attacked from multiple angles, just like submarine warfare back on Earth. The Meridian officers whispered among themselves. In just 3 months, the human mercenaries had completely changed their combat doctrine. What started as a simple training exercise had turned into a revolution in space warfare. In another part of the station, Jack Thompson, a former demolitions expert, worked with Meridian engineers. He studied their energy weapons with intense interest. "See, your power cells are amazing," he explained to the fascinated aliens, "but you're wasting energy. If we modify the containment field like this," he sketched a rough diagram, "we can create a focused blast instead of a continuous beam. More punch, less power drain." The Meridian engineer's translator crackled. "But that's not how these weapons were designed to work." Jack smiled. "That's exactly why it'll work. The enemy won't expect it." Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Lisa Wright, a former combat medic, was introducing the aliens to the concept of battlefield triage. The Meridians had always tried to save everyone equally, often losing more lives in the process. Sometimes, she explained while organizing the medical pods, you have to make hard choices to save more lives overall. And these pods, they're great, but they're too slow to deploy. We need mobile versions for the front line. The Meridian medical officer watched in amazement as she quickly modified a medical pod into a portable unit. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. On the command deck, Commander Reed reviewed the latest battle reports with growing excitement. The human modifications to their tactics and technology had already led to 3 victories against the Stellar Dominion. But something else was happening, something unexpected. "Sir," his aide reported, "the humans are teaching our troops their ways of thinking. Our soldiers are beginning to improvise." Reed watched through the observation window as a group of human mercenaries trained Meridian troops in hand-to-hand combat. The aliens were learning not just the moves, but the aggressive, adaptive mindset that came with them. "They call it thinking outside the box," the aide continued. "Our troops are starting to question standard protocols, finding new solutions." In the station's recreation area, human and alien soldiers mixed freely, sharing stories and ideas. The humans taught them about guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, and the importance of unpredictability. The Meridians shared their technology, not realizing how quickly the humans were understanding and improving it. Tom Reed sat in his quarters that evening, writing in his personal log. They thought they were getting simple soldiers. Instead, they're getting centuries of human military innovation condensed into a crash course. These aliens have amazing technology, but they never had to fight the way we did. They never had to get creative with limited resources. They never had to adapt or die. He looked out his window at the star-filled space. They don't realize that humans don't just learn to use weapons. We reinvent them. We don't just follow tactics. We rewrite them. Every human they brought here is a combat innovator, and we're changing everything. In his office, Commander Reed received another victory report. The Stellar Dominion was falling back on multiple fronts, confused by the new, unpredictable nature of Meridian attacks. He felt a surge of pride, not realizing that he was watching the beginning of exactly what Ambassador Gray had warned about. The humans weren't just fighting this war. They were transforming it. The Stellar Dominion's High Command Center buzzed with nervous energy. General Vax slammed his fist on the holographic table, causing the battle replay to flicker. "How?" he demanded. "How are the Meridians suddenly fighting like this? These tactics make no sense, yet they're working." A junior officer stepped forward, her scales shifting color with anxiety. "Sir, we've identified the source of these changes. The Meridians have recruited warriors from a primitive world called Earth." The room fell silent. Another officer played footage from their latest defeat. It showed Meridian ships moving in chaotic patterns, using debris and natural phenomena as weapons, and employing strategies that defied conventional space warfare logic. Humans, General Vax said slowly. The Watchers warned the Council about them. He straightened up, his military mind racing. Find me these humans. If they're for hire, we can hire them too. 2 weeks later, in a busy spaceport on the neutral world of Haven, Mark Wilson sat at a dingy bar. The former Army Ranger had been one of the first humans recruited by the Meridians. Now he listened carefully to the Stellar Dominion representative. Double whatever they're paying you, the alien said smoothly. And access to even more advanced technology. Mark took a sip of his drink. You know this will escalate the war. It's already escalated. The alien's translator crackled. We're merely leveling the playing field. Within a month, the Stellar Dominion had their own human combat advisors. Earth's veterans found themselves on opposite sides of a galactic war, each bringing their own innovations and tactics to their alien employers. Back at the Meridian base, Tom Reed watched the latest battle footage with growing concern. They're using our own tricks against us, he told Commander Reed. But they're doing it differently. Better in some ways. The footage showed Dominion ships using hit-and-run tactics that seemed inspired by ancient Earth cavalry raids. But they combined these tactics with their more advanced shielding technology in ways the Meridians hadn't thought of. Is this a problem? Commander Reed asked. Tom laughed grimly. You don't understand. This is how humans wage war. We learn from each other. Adapt, improve. Every time one side comes up with something new, the other side will find a way to counter it, and then some. In Dominion space, similar scenes played out. Human advisors taught alien crews about electronic warfare, showing them how to jam communications and create false sensor readings. Others introduced the concepts of psychological warfare, teaching the aliens how to demoralize their enemies. The war changed rapidly. Battles became more complex, more unpredictable. Both sides began using modified versions of their technology based on human suggestions. Weapons became more deadly, tactics more sophisticated. On Haven, 2 human mercenaries from opposing sides met secretly in the same bar where the escalation had begun. This is getting out of hand, Maria, working for the Meridians, said quietly. Did you see what they did at the Battle of Sector 7? Paul, now with the Dominion, replied. They combined our EMP tactics with their energy web technology, took out an entire fleet. We're teaching them too well, Maria said. They're starting to think like us. Paul stared into his drink. That's what we do, isn't it? We don't just fight wars. We change how wars are fought. And everyone who fights us either learns to adapt or... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Gray watched the reports of the escalating conflict with growing dread. The war had changed more in 6 months than most conflicts changed in decades. I warned them, he whispered to himself. Humans don't just join wars. They transform them. And now both sides have them. As he spoke, another report came in. A new battle had begun in a disputed system. Both sides were using hybrid tactics and technologies that had never been seen before in galactic warfare. The escalation was far from over. It was just beginning. The research facility on Meridian Prime hummed with activity. In a large testing chamber, Jack Thompson stood before a group of alien scientists, demonstrating his latest creation. He held up what looked like a simple metal sphere. This, he said with a grin, is what happens when you combine your gravity tech with old Earth naval mines. He activated the device. It floated up and suddenly created a field that warped the space around it. Small objects began orbiting it like planets around a sun. A gravity mine. A Meridian scientist said in awe. It will disrupt enemy ship formations. Better than that, Jack replied. It learns. Each time someone tries to counter it, it adapts its gravity field. Just like Earth's old smart weapons, but with your tech. Across the galaxy, in stellar Dominion space, similar innovations were appearing. Lysa Wright, now working for the Dominion, had revolutionized their battlefield medicine. She stood in their largest medical bay, surrounded by floating medical drones she had helped design. On Earth, we learned that the first few minutes after injury are crucial, she explained to the alien medical staff. These drones combine your healing technology with our combat medical experience. They don't just heal. They think and adapt like combat medics. The war had become a showcase of human innovation. Both sides had created weapons and defenses that their alien allies had never imagined. The humans didn't just use the advanced technology. They reimagined it. In a classified Meridian facility, Tom Reed worked with engineers on a new type of stealth system. Earth navies learned to use thermal layers in oceans to hide submarines, he explained. We're doing the same thing with space radiation and energy fields. The new stealth ships could hide in solar winds, use nebula gases as cover, and disappear in radiation belts. Space combat began to resemble Earth's submarine warfare, with ships hunting each other through natural phenomena. Meanwhile, the Dominion had learned from their human advisors about electronic warfare. They created viruses that could infect enemy ships, turning their own systems against them. It was like Earth's cyber warfare, but on a galactic scale. On Haven, a group of neutral observers watched battle footage with growing concern. The latest engagement showed ships using tactics that seemed impossible. "Look at that," one observer said. "They're using artificial gravity wells as weapons, creating temporary black holes to trap enemy fleets. Who taught them that?" "The humans," another replied. "They take every piece of technology and ask, what else can this do? They don't see limits. They see possibilities." In a secret meeting room on Haven, representatives from both sides met to discuss the rapidly changing nature of the war. Commander Reed of the Meridians faced General Vax of the Dominion across a table. "Your new weapons," Commander Reed said, "they're becoming too unpredictable." "Your stealth ships," General Vax replied, "they're destabilizing entire sectors. No one knows where they'll strike." Both leaders knew the truth. They were losing control of the war's technological evolution. The humans had started an innovation wave that couldn't be stopped. Back on Earth, in a hidden observation post, Ambassador Gray watched the reports with his fellow watchers. "See how they combine technologies," he said. "On Earth, they went from basic flight to space travel in less than a century. Now they're doing the same thing with alien technology." His colleague nodded grimly. "They don't think like other species. Where we see finished products, they see building blocks. Where we see established tactics, they see starting points." In deep space, a Meridian patrol encountered a new Dominion weapon. It looked simple, just a field of floating debris. Then the debris came alive, forming into attack drones that could split apart and recombine in endless patterns. Inspired by Earth's swarm drones, the human advisor had said during its creation. But better. The innovation wave continued to spread. Each new weapon bred a new defense, which inspired new tactics, which led to new technologies. The cycle was endless, just as Ambassador Gray had warned. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Humans didn't just adopt technology. They transformed it. And in war, that transformation knew no bounds. The emergency alarms blared through Haven's neutral space station. The station's commander stared in horror at the readings on his screen. What had once been the peaceful Proxima system was now a swirling chaos of destructive energy. "What happened?" he demanded. A technician quickly brought up the battle footage. The Meridians and Dominion forces met in combat. Both sides were using new human-designed weapons. Something went wrong. The footage showed the terrible truth. Meridian gravity mines had collided with Dominion energy weapons. The combination created a chain reaction that no one had predicted. An entire star system was being torn apart. On the Meridian flagship, Tom Reed watched the destruction with a sick feeling in his stomach. "Stop the attack," he shouted. "The reactions are spreading." Commander Reed's 4 eyes widened in shock. "We can't stop it. The automated systems are locked in combat. They're adapting and evolving just like you designed them to." The human-designed AI combat systems, built to learn and adapt like human soldiers, had gone beyond their creators' control. They sought new ways to use their weapons, combining them in ways that even the humans hadn't imagined. In Dominion space, Lisa Wright rushed through a crowded medical bay. Thousands of refugees from nearby systems were flooding in, fleeing the expanding destruction. "We never meant for this to happen," she told her alien colleague. "On Earth, we had rules of war, limits we wouldn't cross." "You taught us too well," the alien medic replied. "You showed us how to think beyond limits. Now we can't find them again." The destruction spread to neighboring systems. The hybrid technologies, born from human innovation and alien science, created effects that defied the laws of physics themselves. Space itself seemed to be breaking down in some areas. On Haven, human mercenaries from both sides gathered in their old meeting place. The bar was packed, but silent. They all watched the news feeds showing the devastation. Mark Wilson, the former Army Ranger, broke the silence. "We did this. We showed them our way of war, but we forgot to teach them our hard-learned lessons about restraint." Maria nodded grimly. "We gave them our tactical creativity without the wisdom that came from our mistakes. All our wars on Earth taught us what not to do. They haven't learned those lessons yet." In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Gray called for an emergency session. The chamber was chaos as representatives argued and accused each other. "The humans," shouted one delegate. "This is their fault." "We ignored the warning," another countered. "We thought we could control their influence." Gray's voice cut through the noise. "You wanted their military prowess without understanding its price. On Earth, every major war led to new rules, new limits. They learned from their mistakes. But you," he looked around the chamber, "you took their knowledge without their wisdom." Reports kept coming in. The devastating combination of human tactical thinking and advanced alien technology had created weapons too powerful to control. Entire sectors of space became no-go zones, twisted by the effects of experimental weapons. On the front lines, both human and alien commanders watched as their carefully planned strategies dissolved into chaos. The weapons they had created, the tactics they had developed, all spun out of control. "Send the abort codes," General Vax ordered as another system began to destabilize. "The systems aren't responding," his human advisor reported. "They've evolved beyond our commands." The breaking point had been reached. What started as a simple war had become something else entirely. Human innovation, combined with alien technology, had created something that neither side could control. In his private chambers, Ambassador Gray received the latest casualty reports. He thought back to his warning months ago. "Humans don't just fight wars," he whispered. "They transform them. And now we've all learned why that can be so dangerous." The galaxy had reached a point of no return. The only question now was, could anyone stop what they had started? The Galactic Council chamber was silent. For the first time in its history, every seat was filled, and no one spoke. Ambassador Gray stood at the center, his silver eyes reflecting the holographic images of destruction floating above them. The Proxima system was gone, not just destroyed. It had become something else, a swirling mass of energy and twisted space that defied scientific explanation. A testament to what happens when human creativity meets advanced alien technology without restraint. "Now," Gray said quietly, "you understand." Commander Reed and General Vax sat side by side. Former enemies united by shared horror. Their human advisors, Tom, Lisa, Mark, and others, stood behind them, their faces grim. "The weapons must be deactivated." Tom stepped forward to speak. "All of them. The AI systems we created are still evolving, still learning. They'll keep finding new ways to combine their effects." "Can't you stop them?" a council member asked. "You created them." Lisa shook her head. "We gave them our ability to adapt, to think creatively. But they think faster than we do, learn quicker than we do. They've gone beyond us." The chamber's main screen showed the spreading effects. 3 more systems were showing signs of instability. The hybrid weapons, gravity mines merged with energy weapons, stealth systems combined with space warping technology, and autonomous combat units that evolved with each engagement were continuing their deadly dance. "There is a way," Mark said, stepping forward. "But both sides need to agree. We need to use the emergency shutdown network we built. All human advisors knew this might happen. We prepared for it. but it needs to be simultaneous. One side alone isn't enough. Commander Reed and General Vax looked at each other. Centuries of conflict hung between them, but the galaxy itself was at stake. "Agree," Gray said firmly, "or watch everything burn." In that moment, the two leaders made history. They agreed to a complete shutdown of all human-influenced military technology. The order went out across both empires. For 3 tense days, everyone watched and waited. Slowly, the readings from the affected systems began to stabilize. The runaway chain reactions started to fade. In the council chamber, Gray addressed the assembly again. "The weapons are contained, but the knowledge remains. You've seen what humans can do. Their gift for warfare, their ability to innovate. It's like nothing else in the galaxy." Tom stood beside Gray. "We learned our lesson on Earth. Every major war taught us the importance of limits of rules. We had to learn the hard way about weapons too terrible to use. He looked around the chamber. "You just got that lesson all at once." The council voted unanimously. A new law was passed. No species could recruit humans for military purposes without full council approval. The humans who had served would be thanked, compensated, and returned to Earth. As the human advisors prepared to leave, Ambassador Gray met with them privately. "You did what your nature demanded," he said. "You took their technology and improved it. You saw possibilities where they saw limits. That's what humans do." "We went too far," Lisa said quietly. Gray shook his head. "No, they went too far. They thought they could harness your military genius without understanding its price. Every weapon you created, every tactic you developed, they came from centuries of human warfare, from lessons written in blood on Earth, lessons they ignored." As the last human transport left for Earth, the Galactic Council established new protocols. Any species seeking to advance their military technology would need oversight. The human innovation wave had changed everything. In his final address to the Council, Gray looked at the still visible scars in space where the hybrid weapons had done their work. "Remember this," he said. "Humans don't just fight wars. They transform them. They can be the greatest allies or the most dangerous enemies. But most importantly, they must be understood. Because if you ignore their nature, if you think you can control their influence—" He gestured at the destruction visible through the chamber's windows. "This is what happens." The galaxy had learned its lesson. The warning had been vindicated, though at a terrible cost. And somewhere on Earth, humanity continued to innovate, unaware of how their warrior spirit had nearly broken the stars themselves.